Top 10 chick cards. Okay. That's... Alright.
Dual sauce, extra sauce. Hit that subscribe.
Hey everyone, this is Jesse from the Janjo Zone. Yugioh is now Janjo, and because of so, I want to talk about the Pharaonic Guardian Yu-Gi-Oh! Pojo's unofficial guide. Boy, that is a mouthful.
Wait, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't, because that helps me upload more videos and know that you like content like this.
So I briefly talked about a Pharaonic Guardian magazine, my Pharaonic Guardian history video, but I did not know what that magazine was. Now I remember having one, I got it from a grocery store actually, back in the day, back before the set was released in that year's, I think it was June or July of 2003. And I remember always being fascinated by it. It really cemented my love for the set, that being the big themes of grave robbers and tombs and grave keepers and zombies and a lot of very things that are just so Janjo.
Want to support Janjo? Get your name in videos or request content for the channel? Then check out my Patreon for exclusive perks, content, and stretch goals.
I looked into it. I had a couple of magazines already, and maybe I'll do videos on those if you all enjoyed this one. I have a couple other magazines like Pojo, Beckett, stuff that I love to talk about. Hopefully get more of one of these days, so I can look at the cool historical things and the deck lists and all that stuff. I think that'd be really fun. But I managed to find this one because I was looking into it, and the Beckett magazines at the time seemed to be released after Pharaonic Guardian. Like they would have a set for Pharaonic Guardian, but it would be post the release. And I recall the magazine mentioning or showing the Japanese, the OCG versions of the cards. So I knew that couldn't be the case if they were talking about the TCG versions of it. So this is the only magazine I could find that was otherwise distinctly Pharaonic Guardian. So I don't remember if this is it or not, but this is the closest thing I could imagine it being. So we're just gonna bust in and find out page by page. It's gonna be real interesting. I just got this in the mail yesterday. Surprisingly, they don't really have PDFs online, or at least not that I could find of all these magazines, 'cause that'd be really cool. Oh boy, that print quality of that. The Black Skull Dragon, Labyrinth. This is Metal Raiders right here, man. So this is this is their 4th Yu-Gi-Oh book. They mentioned, I love to get some of the 2002 ones. I love to get some of the early releases, really see mindsets back in the day. You got killer decks, top 10 lists, card strategies, reports, a whole lot more. You have an address you can send. I wonder if it still applies. Cheap ass decks. Pharaonic Monster, a lot of Pharaonic Guardian cards. By the way, I am really excited for the Pharaonic Guardian Sphinx when that comes out in the OCG, but this is just table of contents, so. All right, so we got here Pharaonic Guardian Evolution. What the heck, is that from the Mummy? What is that from? So what does this new batch of cards do for the players? New variety of cards, yada yada yada. I'm not gonna read everything because obviously it would take forever to read. Hopefully the image is clear enough that you could maybe read some of it. I don't know, we'll see. Maybe this will be a 4K video. Maybe not, we'll find out. The first card they mention is that very beautiful secret rare Ring of Destruction. You got lucky this time, Dueler. Pojo has something special on the back of this book. Is it a centerfold? I guess it would be a back fold. That sounds disgusting. So they already know this card is immensely powerful. It's Ring of Destruction. Like, we all know how game-ending that card is. Ability to rampant, unfair damage very quickly. Yeah, you could say that. We would also mention Barrel Behind the Door, which I love the TCG art of that. Actually, more than the OCG. I think it's completely ridiculous. Maybe I'll do a video on TCG art that's better than the OCG, in my opinion. But flipping the page, we start to get a bunch of the other Pharaonic Guardian cards. These are the TCG, so these aren't quite what I remember. But maybe it'll be later in the book. But we'll find out. For all I know, it could have been something that wasn't a Pharaonic Guardian book. It could have been one earlier in the year. I don't know. This, you know, this is a journey I want to figure out, and hopefully y'all can help me figure that out too. We have some interesting cards. You know, Sasuke Samurai, yeah, not good. I mean, he's pretty good for the time, but he was replaced by Mystic Swordsman about a year later. Guardian Sphinx, I think, is pretty busted. I think people don't give that card enough respect. Don Zalug is crazy. Mirage and Nightmare, Spirit Reaper, Raigeki, Breakneck, all these cards. You know, these two are kind of like, whatever. In terms of like the impact of these cards, especially stuff like Mirage and Nightmare. Hoo boy. Yeah, talk about a lot of interesting cards on here. Guardian Sphinx is sometimes called the Super Penguin Soldier. I've never heard that, but maybe. I mean, I guess you could argue that. They call Don Zalug one of the best cards in the set. He's better than a white magical hat, so you can call him a super white magical hat, if you will. Maybe I'll Photoshop that in the video or something. Mirage and Nightmare, offbeat card. They do mention the Mystical Space Typhoon combo, so that's already mentioned. Common decks in Japan abuse this card so badly that Konami restricted it to 1 per deck. Oh boy, well, eventually it'll become none per deck, so. And talk about Spirit Reaper being a hand control card with Don Zalug. Like, they clearly know what they're talking about back in the day. Raigeki Break wraps a Tribute to the Doomed and Mystical Space Typhoon into 1 card. Yeah, destroy 1 card in the field. I always loved Raigeki Break back in the day. I used to have that card, and I loved it. Necker Valley, I absolutely love this card. I should be making like a Necker Valley inspired design. Hopefully by the time this video is posted, it should be up there. I'm sure you'll see in my merch, my Teespring. Use a Giant Trunade to return it to your hand. Play Beatdown. Okay. I felt like that didn't really translate super well. But it's funny seeing like the anime art with kind of low res. But hey, got a full standing Dark Sage. I don't remember seeing that in the show. Maybe we did. It was just some promotional thing. Dark Sage is cool. He wasn't in the manga, but like he needs more love. Beatdown, bounce, direct damage, discard, Exodia, Gravekeeper, Graveyard Recursion, Harpy Lady, Light, Sneak Attack, Spirit, Water, Zombie. Goodness gracious. Yeah, I guess this set introduced Birdface, Falcos, Rising Air Current. I'd like to see a Harpy deck, actually, from this time. We mentioned other cards like Dark Rumor Nightmare, Spirit Reaper, Exodia, different Dimension Capsule, Gravekeeper Spear Soldier, which has a built-in Fairy Meteor Crush. I love Fairy Meteor Crush just for the name. Like, it's a great name, right? Like, it sounds like a drink. Okay, now they're reviewing the cards. So it goes from Sucks, Iffy, Solid, Strong, and Kira. So definitely, well, this guy says it's 5 stars, but Edo says it's 4. I wonder why he says that. Maybe because like it will be limited. I don't know. Shape Snatch. This is a hilarious card. I'm kind of surprised King Tiger Wangu only got 2. They do mention he's good for beatdown, but 1700 attack is subpar and not worth the space in normal decks. I mean, sure, that's fair, but I feel like 2, like it's definitely solid at the very minimum. Yeah, looking out, like they gave Jowls a Dark 3. Like, what does that card even do? It flips, it takes control of a monster until the end of the turn. I mean, it's interesting, but actually that could be an interesting tech in like a flip control deck in the, like Go format. But still, I mean, I feel like 3 is a bit much. Moisture Creature gave 2. It's funny, they were talking about Sasuke Samurai earlier. We only gave him 2. Edo gives him 3. Dark Dust Spirit, Generate Mummies, Swarm of Scarabs. A lot of fascinating cards. Guardian Sphinx, 3 and 4. So I think 4 is the highest. I don't think we've seen a 5 yet. Well, no, okay. That One Ring Instruction got a 5. I wonder if there'll be one that is 5 across the board, though. Don Zalug also gets a 5 and a 4, which is kind of surprising. They mentioned that he is the most anticipated monster in the set, which makes sense. Hand Destruction was a big thing in 2002. So, whoa, Book of Life is interesting. A 4 and a 2. Whoa, hold on. Hold the phones. Yeah, it would be a staple in zombie decks. This guy mentions that your opponent has to have a monster in the graveyard. but not good in standard decks. Well, sure, but like you gotta mention like the decks is gonna be used, and obviously Book of Life won't be used in non-zombie decks. Like, come on, dude. Come on. This guy gave his Mirage a Nightmare 2. Can you believe that? 2 and a 4. This guy says it's another gem, but he says, I'm not really sure how to rate this card. According to Japanese expert rules, extremely good and deserves its restriction to 1. On the other hand, the English expert rules make it hardly playable in any deck. Seeing how we use it in the US, I'll rate according to the information UDE has given us. Upper deck. That is, I don't know, man. Like Book of Moon, 2 and a 3. It's crazy when you consider these cards in retrospect, just how broken they are. I mean, there's a lot of cards that are like that, but I feel like Mirage and Nightmare, again, in particular, was like right away. But though this was pre-release, so I can kind of understand his logic here, where it's like the drawback is really bad. You don't know how it's actually going to be used in TCG because OCG and TCG are used pretty separately. Let's see, what does he say about Book of Moon though? He doesn't really say anything like that negative. It says it can be used for Magician of Faith. It can be used to protect yourself from life points. I mean, he doesn't really say too much that Edo doesn't say, which is kind of surprising. Call of Money is pretty interesting. I'd say 3 is all right. Ordeal of a Traveler, 2 is all right. I think it's pretty good in certain degrees. Trap Dust Shoe. Whoa, he get 1 and a 2. Crazy. The problem, some guy says, the problem with, that's what it says, some guy. The problem with this card is if your opponent has 4 or more cards in his hand, acquiring a monster isn't going to be a hard task. All in all, Trap Dust Shoot is too situational, like many cards from this set. That's fair. Trap Dust Shoot typically is a card you want to see first turn, but with that said, 1 star is kind of pushing it. The other guy is like, oh yeah, well, I mean, you can decrease their options, you can send cards back in their deck. You know, he's taking it for what, at face value, and some guy is mentioning it at in context of the game, which is an interesting take, that they have 2 different takes of that regard. I don't know if that's their take for every card, but at least for Trap Dust Shoot, I can understand their logic here, but still, 1 and 2 feel pretty low. Again, it's interesting to see people's mindsets back in the day for like older cards. It's like Reckless Greed, 3 and 3. That might be the most even we've seen so far. There's, you know, you can't really abuse the card, but it's, you know, it's fair. It pre-approves 2 trophies. Inpachi and Kabuzals. Okay, he mentions that Inpachi has high defense for a machine card, which I guess it's fair. That it's not like low attack, but its defense works for machines. I don't know how machines deck looked at this time, but sure. Kabuzal is not bad for dinosaur decks. We'll actually see him in Dino Rabbit years later. Newdoria, 2 stars. That's a little surprising too, because he's just a man-eater bug that you only worry about being flipped, but you know, sure, whatever. Let's see, Gravekeeper, Spy 2 mentions that, of course, he's using in a casual Gravekeeper deck. But he says like you don't want to leave his card out, but then he gives it 2 stars. Again, I think he's regarding to as a whole, but again, like in this format, you're going to use it in a Gravekeeper's deck, and we all know that in GOAT format, Spy becomes way better, but still, you got to keep in context. You got to keep in mind the context of the deck. A lot of crappier monsters, like Chief got 3 over Spear Soldier, even Assailant got 1 like that. This is kind of crazy. This is kind of nutso. Those are some like really good Gravekeeper's cards, and Spot and Chief, you know, you got a tribute over. Well, 1900 Cheapitless Monster, that's not true. It's got 5 stars. So that's an error right there. The Edo says that he mentions that you have to tribute to summon this card. I don't know what some guy's thinking. Salem's one of the lower end Gravekeeper monsters, even though its effect is halfway decent when Necro Valley's on the field, or better Gravekeeper monsters you can get the job done. Like who? Yeah. Like which other ones get up to 2000 attack? You got Spear Soldier. I mean, Chief you have to tribute for. I mean, Cannon Holder is pretty close with 1900. But other than that, you got, what, 1700 Spy, you know? Assailant can do a lot of stuff. Like Edo says, a frontline attacker he's a frontline attacker. They mentioned the Yatagarasu lock with Mystical Knight Jackal, which is something not many people really talk about. The Jackal lock deck. Maybe I'll do a deck profile of that one of these days. I had this card back in the day and I love the art. They should do more Jackal cards. Let's see, 2. Wing Sage Falco's got a 3. Yeah, low powered Knight of Jackal. Spirit Reaper 4 and 3. Okay, that's a bit of a higher one, which makes sense. It's a fantastic card. White magical hat effect, and very annoying. So they got all the stuff down for that. They got the gist down. Reaper on the Nightmare card shuffle. Yeah, I don't get this card either. That's pretty funny. Hey, maybe if you're playing against Spiral, maybe. Necro Valley 3 by Nick Wiz. So the potential to be a very annoying card. Yeah, Shazam Witch of the Black Forest, Sangan, Fiber Jar, Sinister Serpent. Pretty wild. Pretty wild. Reasoning 3 and 3. I still want to see at least a 4 and 4. I don't think we've seen a 4 and 4 yet. We've seen 4 and 3s. I don't think we've seen a 4 and 4. Can like anyone just agree on something? Don's Lu got a 5 and 4, but man, terraforming 4 and a 3. That's kind of hilarious. He does mention index using field magic. Well, like, duh. I mean, what are some of these guys thinking? Of course you're going to use it. Like, why would you run it otherwise? It makes no sense. Metamorphosis 3 and 3. Of course, it makes sense. Metamorphosis wasn't as strong when it first came out because there wasn't really great ways to abuse it. Given the decks at the time. Royal Tribute with a 1. Yeah, I don't get this card. Seriously, there may be a use for it in the future, but I don't see one now. It's too situational. Maybe I'm missing something. I don't know if you consider too situational. I mean, you need Necro Valley on the field, and then it works. Reversal Quiz, I have no comment. Come on, I want to give it a 0 or negative. Funny this guy says that, because they do end up using this card in Reversal Quiz OTK. Coffin Cellar mentioned that Dark Room Nightmare is just a better version of that. That's fair, but affects stack. Raigeki Break 3 and 3. Rife Spirit 4 and 2. A lot of interesting cards in this set. Question 3 and 1. Rope of Life 3. Only if you're crazy enough to use it. That's fair. Lava Golem a 4 and a 2. Wow, that's a big jump. What does Edo say about it? They say, doesn't say like too much negatives about it. I guess the use of it is limited, which I guess is fair. You kind of want to have a backup plan after you summon it. Top 10 Pharaonic Monster Guardian cards. Pyramid Turtle, Dark Dust Spirits, Mystical Night Jackal, Dark Giroid, Sasuke Samurai, number 1, or just, the regular one. Hellpalmer, Guardian Sphinx, Lava Golem, Spirit Reaper, and Don Zalug. These are the monsters, so that's fair. I would say that's a fair point on it. See, Magic Trap cards. It's funny how this one it starts at 1 and goes to 10. This one starts at 10 and goes to 1. Nightmare Wheel, Necro Valley, Terraforming, Reckless Greed, Metamorphosis, Raigeki Break, Ordeal of a Traveler, Book of Life, Mirage of Nightmare, and Ring of Destruction, with honorable mentions being Barrel Behind the Door, Dark Coffin, Rope of Life, and Question. Yeah, I mean, that's fair. A lot of great cards here. I'm surprised Raigeki Break isn't placed a bit higher. I'd probably swap it out with like Ordeal of a Traveler and Book of Life. I think Raigeki Break would be number 3. Obviously, seems like Metamorphosis, Terraform, and Necro Valley. It would be some time before we really see them pop off. But Ring of Destruction is like clearly the best card of this set. Ring of Destruction and Don's Loot were insane. Clown Control, Compulsive Clown Control by David J. Perry. Maybe I'll make this in dueling book, then post it over. They did talk about more of the logistics behind it, but yeah, I mean, it's Clown Control. We all kind of know how that works. A lot of control, heavy control. Clown Control is really annoying, which I feel like many people don't talk about, even in GOAT format. Probably because it requires a high skill level to play. There's also a Fiend deck here. Yeah, I'm sure I'll make these decks in like dueling book, then like post them over here, because I think that'd be kind of interesting. So they have like side decks and all. Just more logistics behind decks. Automatic Clown, 2 clown decks. Incredible, 2 clown decks. So this really is like the first decks for a Pharaonic Guardian format, which I've kind of talked about would be fun kind of doing. Here we go, Lava Berlin. Lava Golem Burn deck. Here's the fun stuff. New Age Beatdown. Yep, we're definitely getting in there now. We're definitely getting in there. There's a lot of decks. I'm actually pretty excited. Like, this is the kind of stuff I like about these ones, are the deck lists, because we don't have enough libraries, I suppose, of decks from that era. Sure, we can go back and like make decks and stuff with like now ideas. I mean, people never played Solemn Judgment back in the day, but nowadays, like, that's all they do. Well, that's not all they do, but you know, they use a lot more than they ever did before. But not so much decks like these that are really saved unless you go back on old forums. Pharaonic Army. That's a cool name for a deck. I dig it. It seems to be a like a warrior beatdown kind of deck. Yeah, he mentions using warriors. The cheap fiend deck. If you don't want to pay out for those super rare cards. This one still uses Login. First card is Bistro Butcher. Yeah, okay, I guess we'll see how it works. Cheap as Dark Beatdown. I'm surprised they haven't shown off a Gravekeeper yet. I'm hoping we'll get to one. But this is definitely interesting. It's probably mean I have way more stuff to edit and I have to make all the decks. Yeah, they don't mention a Gravekeeper deck. I'm kind of surprised, like a Gravekeepers or a zombie deck. Just a lot of beatdowns, I'm a little bit disappointed. Oh wow, look at this. What is this? Apprentice and Online Dueling. DragonStudios.com. Wow. That looks super archaic, but it is 2003 and it's pretty hilarious to look at. Yeah, talking more about the online play. Man, can we bring this back? Can we bring it back? A shift in mechanics. Automatic versus manual. Talk about shifting attack and defense, which is true. Because they have, you know, a lot of cards that kind of move things around. Like Book of Moon, Book of Tayo, all the flipping monsters. I don't know what like the exact term for them, because they're not flip effect. I guess just flip monsters and flip effect monsters. I never know what to like really call them. Reflippers. I think this mentions them as automatic shift cards, which is, you know, it doesn't really roll off the tongue super well, but yeah, I mean, we got a lot of cards that were using like Pac-Man decks, and they don't mention the stupid one to summon, Fushio Rich. Fielding and innovative offensive, talking about magic cards, like Necro Valley. I don't think this was the magazine I had, looking at it. I definitely remember, it probably was an earlier one than like around the time of Pharaonic Guardian. It must have been like months earlier to still be OCG. Top 10 female monsters. Girls Gone Wild. Harpy Later Scissors, Witch's Apprentice, Dark Necrofear, Invader of the Throne, Amazon Archer, Maiden of the Aqua, Marie the Fallen One, Gemini Elf, Injection Fairy Lily, woo, and Fire Princess. Silly boys, cards are for chicks. Top 10 chick cards. Okay. That's... Alright. I mean, there's good cards here. Fire Princess and Mary the Fallen One work together. Gemini Elf was very powerful. The tag, you know, Fairy Lily, really good. Dark Necrofear is pretty good. I feel like Dark Necrofear needs kind of more love. Maybe that'll be another tech thing. See, Sand Trap hits. I was talking about like a Gen Con deck list too. That's interesting. So this is more of like a really like meta deck from July 24th to July 27th. Interesting. Again, I'm sure I'll actually post like a more nicer looking deck list for y'all for these things. And it mentions like some of the duels here. Another deck list here. Okay, if you want to see more things like this, definitely let me know, and you know, maybe some people can send some my way. Enough talk. Let's duel. All right. Yeah. So I'm kind of sad that this wasn't the thing I was looking for, but it was still fascinating to go through. I love these like old books. I have a couple more, not too many more. I have a couple more, maybe like three or four more. We'll see if I get to them. Maybe not away, maybe in the future. I don't know, we'll see. But I still want to find that one freaking book. I really thought this was it, and it's not. So hopefully one day I'll find that old book with the OCG Pharaonic Guardian cards in it that I got at that grocery store. But let me know what you think about this book about Pharaonic Guardian. If you haven't seen my Pharaonic Guardian video or my 2003 Yu-Gi-Oh video, definitely check that out, and check out my Patreon and merch to support me further. And until I see you all next time, have a wonderful day.
My grandpa's deck has no pathetic cards, Kaiba.